Welcome to the platform where I talk about everything relevant, topics that resonate, and help you elevate. This is the platform. If you're a new viewer or an occasional viewer, please do subscribe. Your support goes a long way. Thank you. This is episode 11, entitled Concept of Maturity, as long as the heir is a child. All right, so what is maturity? So maturity can mean so many things, but the definition is almost similar. So it can mean being of age, coming of age. It can mean the state of full growth. It can mean adulthood. So that is what maturity means, right? So as long as the child remains an heir. So this part of the episode comes from Galatians 4 verse 1 to 2. Right. As long as the child is an heir, he is not different from being treated like a servant, or is not different from a servant because he has not come of age, right? So let's say in a kingdom, in a monarch, right? Let's say the king dies and then he has an heir, right? If this happens, they need to put a new king on the throne, and the new king who has to sit on the throne is the rightful heir to the throne, right? So who do they put on the throne? They put the heir, they put the firstborn son of the king, if he has any, on the throne, right? But let's say that this child, this kid is like 5 years old, right? They deem the heir to be unfit to be ruling the kingdom because he's not able to make the diplomatic decisions that come with being a king. He is a king by fact, but he has not come of age, so he's not different from a servant. So what do they do when this happens in these types of kingdoms? So what they do is that they insert a regent ruler. They are not the official ruler, right? But they are there to insert the governing decisions that go with ruling the kingdom, because this heir is not yet of age. The heir is not mature to understand what needs to be happening in a kingdom. Can you explain to a 5-year-old the ins and the outs of like how to rule a kingdom? Can you explain to them how to part land, or to separate land, or to govern the land, or to govern the people? The point is that a 5-year-old is unfit to rule a kingdom. So they insert a regent, or a ruling council that is able to give a balanced verdict in terms of how the kingdom is supposed to be ruled, in terms of like how the kingdom is supposed to be operating. So when the king becomes mature, or when they deem that the king is not mature, usually it's like at 18 years old, that's when they can come to the conclusion of saying that this one is not mature enough to be ruling the kingdom. And then that's when they declare him as the acting and predominant king. That's when they insert him as the true ruler of all. Because yes, he is an heir, but he had not come of age. So as long as he has not come of age, he is not fit enough to be ruling a kingdom. So that's why as long as a child is an heir, he is not different from a servant, because servants cannot declare kingdom decisions. They are not that influential. They are not that powerful enough to declare that, okay, this person wants land, they want so many hectares, let me give it to them. They don't have that power to do that. As much as the child is the heir to the throne, he is not fit enough to rule. So that is the concept of maturity. that states that as long as the child remains an heir, he's no different from a servant. So now the question is, how does someone get to maturity? Because the thing is, it's not just about age. You see, it's not just about being 18 years old. You can still be 18 years old and still be immature. But yes, being 18 years old can, in fact, allow you to be put on the throne because you've reached the age. But just because you've reached the age physically doesn't mean that you've reached the age mentally. So how do you get to the point of being mature mentally? How do you stop being a child so that you ascend into being who you're meant to be, into being an heir instead of being a servant? How do you do that? You do that by knowing how to be mature. So how does one become mature? So maturity requires consistency in growth. Maturity is not a one-day type of event. According to science, I think, because I haven't done the thorough research, because it was not meant to be stated in this episode, but it's something that just something that came into my head now. So the brain of a man becomes fully mature at 43 years old, and of a woman it becomes mature at 32 years old, right? So we all still growing and we all still becoming who we're meant to become, right? But this is the science part of it, that the brain matures at its full capacity at 43 years old if you're a man, and if you're a woman at 32 years old. But this is the emotional maturity of the side of things. But when it comes to the physical maturity of the brain, I think it's around 25 years of age. That's when it becomes fully mature physically. I'm not sure if that applies for both male and female, but it applies to female. I'm not sure about males because I didn't look into that. So maturity is not one day event. It requires a daily deposit of you pouring into yourself. Think of David, for example. Before he killed Goliath, he was still growing, he was still maturing. He had dealt with a lion, he had dealt with a bear, and now he had to deal with Goliath. Those are big things. They seem like big things, bigger size, more frightening. But when it comes to him taking on a task, he now understands that size doesn't really make the man, but actions do make the man. So he's no longer afraid because he's now grown to his full state of being able to take on such a challenge like that. So what does he do? He takes the sling and then he uses it. So what gives him courage to do that? Yes, it's the name of the Lord that he comes in, but it's also the training that he had to go through before he got to be in this situation. He had to understand that fear is just within the mind, but the arm and the hand that holds the sling is able to take control of the whole situation. It is able to do that which it's meant to do. So what does this mean? It means that there are certain things that you cannot do if you're not fully mature. If you haven't dealt with fear, there are certain rooms that you cannot walk into. It's not because you're not meant to walk in those rooms. You are meant to walk in those rooms, man. But you haven't grown enough to be in those rooms, because if the right opportunity comes at the wrong time, you possess the capacity to ruin it. And where is God glorified in that? If you take an L, if you miss something that is destined for you, so at times growth is incremental. And this is one of the reasons why growth has to be incremental, because maturity takes time and greatness takes time. Number two is that for maturity to happen, you need to have time under tension. What does time under tension mean? Time under tension means that accepting the responsibilities that you need to accept for you to be able to grow as a person, because without accepting responsibilities, you never grow. Without accepting responsibilities, you never learn. Without accepting responsibilities, you never become who you're meant to be. So that is what it means to have time and attention, because at times when you have certain responsibilities, they're not fun to have, but you're able to ease into it slowly by accepting on the responsibility that has been given to you, because it helps you become a better person by being able to manage and handle the things that are thrown at your way, by handling the things that come into your way. And time and attention can also mean certain things. You have to be willing to actually endure the suffering. You have to be willing to outlast the suffering for you to get to the point of maturity that is destined for you. Think about this, for example. David had to stay in the caves for about 10 to 15 years. Joseph had to be in the dungeon for like 13 years. That was time under tension, right? So just because you're under tension doesn't mean that you are not destined for greatness. At times, there is training in tension. At times, there is refinement in tension. Number three is that for you to mature, you need to have the right mentorship. You need to be taught how to do this life thing. Think about this, for example. It's like Paul and Timothy. Paul is mentoring Timothy into ministry, into him doing what he was supposed to be doing, what he was called into doing. And and Timothy wasn't even that old. He was quite young, I think. I'm not sure as to what his age was, but I think it was somewhere around the 20s there, you know. But the point is, he was under someone that allowed him to learn how to do this thing, in the right way, in the way that it's supposed to be done. I'm not saying that Paul is perfect, but he had the right knowledge that allowed him to mentor someone. And such as this is with kings as well, is with heirs. When they have a regent, when there is a council ruling before his time comes, they allow him, they invite him into the meetings where they make these decisions. They invite him in there to mentor him in knowing how to rule the state, in knowing how to rule the kingdom. Because without proper training, without proper mentorship, we may never truly become who we're meant to become. Because from mentorship, you learn a lot of things. You learn about the mistakes that other people made. You learn about how to do it better. You learn how to aim at the highest good so that you don't mess up. Number four is that you need to fail forward. So what does it mean to fail forward? It means that you need to have the fuel to be failing forward. Even if things are not working out in the moment, don't give up just because you're going through tough times. These are the moments that make the man sometimes. So fail forward. Think about this. The guy who invented the light bulb, forgot his name, but he failed so many times, but he didn't give up. He kept on going on because he knew that he needed to get what he wanted to get. So that's how you become mature, by having and learning the art of perseverance. Keep on going forward. Robert Galbraith, the Harry Potter writer, her manuscripts were denied by so many publishing houses, but she never gave up on doing what she was supposed to be doing, because at times if maturity is not happening, at times if you're not getting what you want, you need to kick on that door very hard until it opens. That's how you become mature. You become mature when you now know that you want more for yourself, knowing that this skin that I have now is not as thick as I want it to be. So I need to shade it off. so that I become who I'm meant to become. Number five is that you need to learn the art of delayed gratification. If you offer something to a child, something that they really want, they will never be able to settle down, or most times. So, what does that teach you about maturity? The state of being mature requires you to be able to delay gratification. So, for you to be mature, you need to learn how to delay gratification. Because if you cannot delay gratification, you're no different from a child. And you remain a servant, and you don't want that. Because what is a servant? A servant is someone who is not able to assert full dominion in a kingdom. And you don't want to be that, because decisions are made for you, and you cannot make decisions for yourself, the decisions that you want to be making. Number 6 is that you need to be aware. You need to be aware that you are not mature. You're not as mature as you could be. And that will allow you to do something about it. Because whatever you're not aware of, you cannot change. Whatever you ignore, you cannot fix. So you need to possess the ability to have an awareness antenna that allows you to see things from a different perspective. You need to be able to take yourself out of your body and evaluate yourself and evaluate your being. And most of the times when you do that, you notice that you are not fully who you could be. And that will trigger you in wanting to grow and push more towards being mature, for you to take the right steps that allow you to be mature, for you to equip yourself with the right information that allows you to be mature, for you to have the wisdom that allows you to be mature. And you need to throw away everything that hinders you from being mature. And what are the things that hinder you from being mature? Being controlled by media hinders you from being mature. Being on TikTok for long hours, being on Instagram, all those things. What are they doing on Instagram and TikTok? What is the algorithm doing? It's blocking you from seeing the whole entire truth in who you could be. Because whatever has your time becomes your master. So if you keep on scrolling on TikTok, and if you keep on going with the algorithm, that will become your master. And TikTok and Instagram or Facebook, whatever social media platform that you use that keeps you on for so long, it will never grow you to the full state of maturity that you need to get to. Only God can do that. And how does He do that? By you getting to the point of awareness and knowing that He must increase and you must decrease. Because if He increases, that's a good deal. You become more mature. You become more of a person that you're meant to become. You don't become someone who is pleasing to look at or someone who's not pleasing to talk to. Because every word that you speak, it'll point to the highest good. Now, isn't that a good deal? Now, who doesn't want to be mature? So maturity is really important. It's really important that you mature. It's really important that you grow. Because if you do not grow, well, at times people might take it easy on you because of your age, in terms of like how old you are. I mean, who would be so mad at a 9-year-old boy because he failed a test? I mean, obviously, by logic, you know that you get another chance to write a test. And when he gets another chance, another opportunity, you might have the faith that you pass it this time. So this seems like this time. But if that 9-year-old keeps on failing that same test at the age of 40, those who grew up with that 9-year-old will end up being miserable at that 40-year-old, because There are certain things that are not acceptable at certain levels, and that's fact. So that's why you need to become mature, and that's why you need to be mature, and that's why you have to master the art and the concept of maturity. Because if you don't grow when the environment around you is also growing, well, you are as if you are a deadlift. And why do I say that? It's because a deadlift will never produce fruit. So how do you know that someone is mature? You know that someone is mature and someone has matured if they are able to produce fruit, if they are able to be fruitful. This is episode 11, the concept of maturity. Thank you for watching and thank you for listening. This is the platform.